Howdy, it's Jim Morado, and this is very early October 2025. We're in Chillicothe, Ohio. We're actually at Sugarloaf Mountain, where they normally do a performance of Tecumseh, which is epic, by the way. I've put up other videos about that. Right now, for Halloween in October, they always do their Haunted Mountain. I saw Frankenstein there a couple of years ago. It was great. This year, they're doing the Mothman Experience. It's a 1 hour play based on the Mothman story. And then they take a little break, and then they did a haunted trail. And this is just a great experience. And I'm probably going to try not to pay too much attention to my video because you can see the video, and I can tell you a little bit of information about what happened this particular night. I think it's 35 bucks to see the play, then it's 15 to do the trail. A VIP ticket is 50, and that includes a drink, free drink. I got a 20-ounce drink or a bottled water, and a goodie bag. That's the goodie bag. It had about 3 Tootsie Rolls in it. And don't do it for the goodie bag. Do it because this is a cool experience, and you're going to want to do both the play and the haunted trail. And, you're going to be supporting some pretty cool people doing something pretty cool. We got hot dogs before the play. They have, your basic kind of festival type food, pizza, hot dogs, pretzels, and we sat and we ate. It's probably above average festival type food. I did enjoy my hot dog I had. There's a great animatronic Mothman they had, and there's where you get your tickets. There's their will call. They have a gift shop kind of directly in front of us. To my left, there's another gift shop that's kind of an upscale gift shop. They have some pretty cool things in there, by the way. Alan Eckert, the author, the guy who wrote the book that the play Tecumseh is based on, they do have some signed books by him, and that's something pretty cool to score if you're into books like me. There's the theater. Of course, the theater is basically custom made for the epic Tecumseh performance, and then they alter it a little bit for their haunted mountain experience in the play. Kind of a rotating office there. The play was about an hour. If you know the Mothman story like I do, it's they're trying to squeeze a lot in 1 hour. Some girls have some Mothman sightings. They decide to go to Point Pleasant to learn more, and it's the story was okay. They were doing what they could. However, the visuals and the eeriness of the play were A plus. In fact, they had some kind of zip line contraptions across the stage and across the audience. I'm not going to run it for you, but they were doing a pretty good job with their effects. Also, the audio was good and creepy, and they did a great job with that, almost like a stereo surround sound kind of thing. Everyone in the audience was looking behind themselves during the performance. It was that kind of a vibe. Also reminded me of a classic old school, like when you're a kid and you're watching a scary movie and you're waiting for the monster to appear. That's kind of how the Mothman was. You're waiting for the Mothman. And the actor, I assume it was just one actor, there might have been multiple actors. Whoever played Mothman, they did a good job. And just had a good time. Very cool experience. Again, the play was about an hour. Sweet little family sitting next to me as a dad, mom, and their probably 10-year-old little boy. He grew up in the area. He now lives in Loveland, and he had not been to the theater in several decades. And he was just happy to get there again. By the way, they allowed photos during the play. I took photos. I probably zoomed in too much. These are not quality photos. I'll give you that. But it'll definitely give you an idea of what was going on. Google elsewhere for some really good quality photos. They're out there. I wanted to talk about, after the play was over, we went and we had a pretzel. We had about a 30-minute, 45-minute break before our timed entry into the haunted trail. And then we came and we lined up for the haunted experience, which is probably half an hour to 45 minutes. I was really impressed When I got to do it a couple years ago for Frankenstein, I was just as impressed again this year. It is a really cool haunted trail. And there was we'll say an older lady in our group. She must have been in her 60s. It was a group. They brought their mom. She seemed to do okay with it. Also, the little boy that was sitting next to us, that family, they were there for it too. They had a good time. By the way, the Men in Black did appear in the play, kind of comic relief, and it's hard to do the Men in Black justice. Being a fan of John Keel and Point Pleasant and the whole story, I would love to see a 1960s play, movie, something based on the John Keel book. I know the Mothman Prophecies. It's set in the 90s, and it's a movie that's grown on me over the years. But the story, the book, is so eerie, and man, I think there's a gold mine waiting for somebody if they could do an honest treatment to the John Keel book, and if they can recreate the vibe of that book. Just my opinion. But this was fun, and it was at night. It had a good eerie vibe. They did a very good job for what they had to work with in 1 hour. Yeah, there's the Mothman. He's kind of creepy, peeking out at us. Anyway, the haunted trail, it was great, and of course they had some actors from the play that were in the haunted trail. And it started out, a man in black came and greeted us. He stayed in character, and then he kind of directed us to go through the trail. There was you kind of enter, and you're immediately kind of squished between balloons. It's a very claustrophobic effect. Probably for 20 feet, you're walking with a massive inflated bag of something on your left and on your right. It's it and that is man, that messes with me more than anything. That really scared me. Lots of good jump scares, lots of great actors in the haunted trail. There's Mothman again, standing. Basically, he is being the statue at Point Pleasant. If you've been to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, they have the big famous Mothman statue. He's silver, but there's the Mothman basically standing there to be the statue. And there was a marriage proposal in the play, which was cute and funny. I'm kind of surprised also that the city of Point Pleasant, Jeff down there with the Mothman Museum, I'm kind of surprised that they haven't thought about doing some sort of a play like this. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens at some point. This was a great idea. Of course, the Mothman is hugely popular. Build-A-Bear, other companies have done their Mothman products, and yeah, I'm surprised that Point Pleasant hasn't done some sort of a Mothman play performance. Back to the haunted trail, it was great. There was an animatronic clown that was basically directing you where to go and telling you, go this way for candy, you'll get candy. Well, as I walked on, there was a kind of a girl who was a zombie clown, and she was kind of eerily beckoning us to her. And I said to her, hey, that clown back there said we would get candy. Where's the candy? And she pointed at me. It was great. It was creepy. And I said, I'm the candy. And she slowly shook her head yes. And I think my jaw dropped. And then she started cracking up. She broke character a little bit. I was pretty proud of myself, but it was very funny, and it was good and eerie, and very spontaneous on her part. I did pull my phone out to film a little bit during the haunted trail, and I'll include a little bit of that. I didn't get any of the actors, but of course they have that lake behind the stage here at the Sugarloaf Mountain. It's a very layered stage. It's very cool what they've got going on, and they had mannequins on boats, and just very cool. There was another actress. She was laying on the floor. In fact, I thought she was a dummy or a mannequin at first, but you could hear this beautiful lullaby. I mean, it was incredible, and I thought it was recorded being piped in, and then I realized that the what you thought was kind of a body laying on the floor, which you assumed was like a dummy or something fake. I could see her, her sides moving, like, and I was like, oh, she's singing that. and then she kind of did a jump scare, and it was just really funny. But I was, man, they really use these actors as talent. Anyway, we're leaving the play. Again, a good crowd, but not too crazy. I'm not a big fan of crowds anymore. Big concerts, major league ball games that are full. I'm reluctant to do these days, but this was a good crowd. Everybody was there having fun. You did have somebody had alcohol. You had a few people that had a little bit much, but they were very pleasant, and yeah, nobody caused any trouble. Again, there's their concession stands. My wife and I shared a pretzel, and they also show movies. And I think, if you're local, I think it's free if you just want to go see the movie and you don't want to see the play. I think they invite people just to come up and do that, which is very nice of them. In fact, um, that might be a good idea for a 3 or 4 day weekend in the future. Come up one night, see the play, do the haunted trail, catch the movie the next night, or something like that. I'll have to think about that next year. And yeah, then people are kind of lining up to go back out to the haunted trail again. There's the Mothman, very cool animatronic Mothman. Yeah, just a little picture of him. And I will say I was a little disappointed in their merch. They had some kind of generic but cool Mothman T-shirts. I don't think it said Sugarloaf Mountain. I don't think it said Mothman Experience on it. They could have done a little better. I think they would have. I definitely would have loved to have bought some Sugarloaf Mountain exclusive Mothman merchandise. There's the man in black that greeted us before our haunted trail. You actually entered the haunted trail through those hands, and it was very creepy. And of course, they had a couple of spots where you saw the two glowing eyes, the Mothman eyes. So that was smart of them to put that there. Very, very creepy. Man, I would have loved this as a kid. Like my brain would have been, my head would have exploded. Anyway, yeah, okay, so we're partially through the haunted trail, and then we went, you go down towards the stage. By the way,
is everybody behind us?
And I'm not going to slow this video down, I'm going to give you the full effect. Because, yeah, my camera's going out of focus, my head was going out of focus. Lots of lights, lots of noise, lots of distractions. And they rigged up like a joy buzzer kind of effect on the railing. I swear they did. Which I thought was pretty bold. There was also one of the rooms as you left, a bit of a dip. And one of the actors who was just trying to scare you was like, oh yeah, watch out for the floor there. Which I thought was funny. There's the animatronics clown that was telling us to come up against some candy. Oh, and by the way, they had that old, what is it, a 54? They had that old car in the play, and that was kind of cool, as they talked about the original Mothman sighting in Point Pleasant. Yeah, there's a mannequin on a boat, and again, I pulled out my phone just briefly to get a little bit of video of the trail, but that's part of the stage. That lake, a horse swims across it if you go see Tecumseh. Another crazy room we went into. A couple of moments during the haunted trail where you thought it was over, you thought you were safe, and then all of a sudden something else happened, which I thought was great. Went back to our hotel room. Friday the 13th, the original part 1 was on TV. One of my favorites, a very appropriate movie to watch after this. And this is us driving away from Sugarloaf Mountain. Had a great time in Chillicothe, got some Tim Hortons coffee on the way out of town. Of course, it always tastes better when you're in Canada, but yeah, not Tim Hortons is not everywhere. Stayed at a very nice Hampton Inn in Chillicothe, by the way. I think I've put up a video about that particular Hampton. They one of the snacks they offer you if you're a gold member, and I am, was some local beef jerky, and it was great. So that was cool. Anyway, I'll wrap this up. If you went out and saw the Mothman Experience, let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from some other people who made it and checked it out. Thanks.